that we have today, I do not have a fancy introduction. I do not have an opening theme like he does when he does his Saturday show. In fact, by Saturday, I mean on Sunday, our guest today has a show on Sundays. He also has a show on Tuesdays. And we're going to have him in 2 seconds. As soon as I get the chat window to pop up, I'm going to verify the vital signs of the stream. Looks like we already have a pretty good complement of people in the chat. So I want to say greetings to Never Said It Would Be Easy, Just Worth It Entertainment. I want to say hi to James. How you doing, JLM? I've been reading Honor Harrington, and boy, that is a pretty good book series right there, man. Let me tell you, I'm on book 3 right now. I just started book 3 today. And I'm glad you recommended that because otherwise I might have taken a decade to get into that series. We got David Glenn, Lady Mist, Alex Moore. Oh, thanks for dropping by. Saw you before at the Ironcaster stream. And we're going to get our guest here because I don't have any fancy music, so we might as well just let our guest in. So without further ado, we have the one, the only, the Pop Culture Mechanic. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good, thanks, DJ. And hey, chat, how are you guys?
I believe they're doing well. I got a yay from David Glenn, and I wonder if I click this button, I just got to let it D. That's awful. So I think we're going to start today's show with questions about shaving. Tell me about shaving. Like, how do you shave? Do you use a straight razor? Do you use a safety razor? Like, how do you do that?
So I use a drop-in double-edged razor. You drop them in, you close it up. They're a lot more cost-effective than buying like Gillette or anything like that, because those are super expensive, and I can get 100 razor blades for $20, right? And where you can spend $20 on 4 of a Gillette razor blade. So I do it that way, and I have to do it every 2 days because where I work at, we have to be able to put on respirators and safety gear. And if you have any facial hair, the deadly gases will get in there and you'll probably die.
I see. So when you describe it as a drop-in, is that like the one with the double-sided blade where you put it inside that like little like loader and it's like it almost looks like a razor blade, or is this a little bit closer to a Gillette or a Dollar Shave Club?
No, it's just like a double-edged razor blade, and you just drop it in the head of your safety razor, and you close it up, and yeah, it works really well.
Alrighty, well, I ask because if that's the reason I'm off camera right now, and luckily I'm pretty good at solving the issues associated with shaving at the last minute. And it's funny, yesterday on New Year's, I was going out to my friend's house and I said, "Oh, who knows? Maybe there, be a lucky lady there." So it's like I got to go there looking good. So I take a shower after work. I did a 12-hour shift, and I come home, take a little, eat dinner, take a shower, and I was like, "Am I gonna shave?" And I said, "You know what? It was just the right amount of scruff." So I was like, I actually, not to be toot my own horn, but I thought I looked pretty good in the mirror with that exact amount of scruff, whereas normally I don't like not shaving. So I skipped shaving, but then today, as I'm getting ready to come up here, I'm like, oh, I better shave. And I mean, the reason I didn't shave yesterday was because I didn't want to, nick myself up. So what I found interesting was I used to use one of those like Gillette Mach 10 razors, and then I would use the other alternatives that are similar. And sometimes they were okay, but one thing I found interesting was like whenever I changed the method of shaving I use, and this is not the planned topic at all. Like actually I had like a list, but we'll jump to that in a minute. But this is just fun, and this is actually instructive. So what would happen is anytime I got tired of a razor, anytime my skin got tired of a razor blade or a razor product, I would switch to something different. And I would get better results like out of nowhere, and it would like work for like a week, and then a week later I find that it would like taper off. So for example, the week I switched to electric, it was pretty good, and then like eventually it just like hit the wall of diminishing returns, and at that point I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? And so I was gonna buy a straight razor, but I was afraid of like accidentally cutting my head off. I mean, like this.
Yeah.
Although I am reconsidering this technology here. And so I ended up going with the safety razors. And first safety razor I had was hit or miss. One day the thing snapped in half on me, but it was a hit or miss. Second safety razor, I bought like a Japanese product made by Feather razor blades. And they seem to use like the same techniques that they use for making samurai swords, where they quench the metal and you get the crystalline structure of the steel to line up a certain way. So it's sort of like you heat it up, you hammer it down like a sword,
Yep.
then you cool it down rapidly, and they call that, I think they call it quenching. And first shave, second shave, third shave, I'm like, this is amazing. And it's generally pretty good. But two things I learned was to get the best mileage, the best shave, you really can't be like listening to music on your phone. You practically need to be able to, you really need to hear the razor blade operate so that you can like listen to it like doing its job, if that makes sense. And you can hear the noise of the like script,
Right.
go,
Yep.
and my face adapted to it, and then I start getting more nicks from it, and it's like it drives me insane. It's like I wasn't super careful shaving today, but I thought I was being careful, and I still eviscerated myself, you know. And it just drives me insane. So I was just hoping that you, being a person who has more experience with shaving, just being on this planet longer, you might know. But for the sake of my vanity, I need to show up on camera now. So I think I'm gonna take a chance here, even though I'm definitely afraid. I'm
Yeah.
definitely afraid that it'll look like I hit a train wreck. But no, I look amazing. I always do. But now, jokes aside, so let's get this camera back on. If anything, I'll put myself in picture view because we got the Snow Dub here. And I never see Snow Dub on my channel. So it is a
Snow
pleasure
Dub.
to see you today. Yeah, how
And
is this channel still blocked? That's what he's saying in the chat. How is this channel still blocked? I don't know, Mr. Snow Dub Music and Entertainment, but I don't think it's your fault. I think it's the system. And whoa, that's the wrong button. But it's okay. I'm gonna work it out. I'm gonna just keep being persistent with my YouTube support request, and we'll take it from there. And as you can see, I'm finagling the chat. I'm not used to having guests on yet, so you can see how like my chat window is like lined up to be like all the way on the left. But we're learning. So anyway, what I'm gonna do, Snow Dub. Here's my plan. I'm gonna make an alternate YouTube account, and I tried making DJ Ronnie Z. In fact, I think that might be available. I tried DJ Ronnie Z, DJ Ronnie Y, DJ Ronnie X. I wanted DJ Ronnie X or Y. That wasn't available. So, yeah, it's funny. So you're sub to me. I'm not officially blocked on your end, but yet I can't participate in the chat on Snow Dub channel. So the thing is that like, I can make a completely different name, make a clever name, like, like G Iggity, that's a clever name. Pop Culture Mechanics, that would be like, I'm not even a real DJ, so what do? Like Computer Technician Ron, Pop Culture Computer Technician, maybe? I don't know, like, it's like, I'm racking my mind here, So, I don't know, either way, I'll play it by ear, but don't be surprised if somebody other than Ronald Maglio shows up in the chat on Snow Dub, and I will announce my presence, and if I decide I want that to be my new secondary YouTube account, I will then humbly request that wrench, because I had a wrench on Snow Dub's channel. I was a hard-working wrench. I posted the shit out of links. I thought that when my wrench disappeared, it was because I was posting too many freaking links, but it was actually apparently the system. So either way, it's all good though. But I log into the other account. I still enjoy the show. I get the interaction with the friends. And David Glenn says, my only problem with the safety razor system is that the blades don't bend like the cartridge razors do. My old face is so craggy. Yeah, it's a valid point. There's places where the blade can't go no matter what I do. I'm not saying you're old, but when you said it like that, I'm picturing an English muffin and a razor blade like working together. I know that's not what's going on here, but like that's like my imagination here. But maybe do people use butter for shaving? I don't know. But from the top, let's see here. What do you think about graphene? That's on my list here.
Oh, graphene?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, out of left field, but yeah, no, I've seen it being touted as like some of the strongest material ever made now, and from what I've heard, and it's
from what I heard, yeah,
they make it in small batches. You can't really make it on an industrial scale yet, where it's mass produced. It's from what I've seen anyway.
Like I think it's got potential, but I have concerns that I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's hype. So, for example, you had that guy who used to be on Tim Pool with the long hair. His name was Ian, and he was sort of like the replacement for Adam Krigler, who would play ball with Tim more. And like I remember, like it was almost like like he's the guy who would be like, hopefully one of the yes men. I don't watch Tim Pool anymore, so I wouldn't know, but that's like as I understand it. And he was like the graphene guy. And so in theory, graphene is carbon atoms that are one molecule thick. So people know about carbon fiber. Carbon fiber
Hmm.
is like strings or strands of carbon, and you can pretty much work with it much in the same fashion as fiberglass. And you got like pretty much a good strength to weight ratio going on there. And then graphene is basically like a sheet of carbon atoms that's one atom thick. And why I think I feel like it might be hype. And it's like a divergence from the hopeful idea that we can use this to make a space elevator because, oh, David Glenn read my mind. Yeah, space elevator cables. Because the idea is that you would have a strength to weight ratio where, because the problem is that if you build a steel cable going from the ground to geosynchronous orbit, which would basically be orbiting the Earth over the equator, the weight of the very thing that you're trying to support, the weight of the actual cable would get too heavy to support its own weight. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so that's why graphene has potential as a space elevated cable. The idea is that it's light enough that even when you build it to the appropriate length to like, attach to what you might call a skyhook satellite. I don't
Hmm.
know if that's a real term, it just sounds cool. Then, it won't fall apart under its own weight. Whereas steel, like if you make steel like strong enough to support at a certain point, it'll stretch itself out and come apart. If you make it thicker, it'll get too heavy. You run into,
Yep.
these engineering issues. So that's graphene. But my concern is that one of the ways that they discovered graphene was basically taking like carbon, like almost like pencil lead, graphite actually, and you put it like on a piece of paper, right? You put the graphite on the paper, and you like a nice, almost like when you take a pencil and you put the lead sideways to color it in with graphite.
Yep.
Then you take packing tape and you peel off the pencil lead, and you get like a layer of like pencil lead that's like one layer thick. And apparently that is a form of graphene. And you mentioned before that there are challenges in producing large quantities, and so the easiest version of graphene you could buy today is in a bottle, but it's almost like the equivalent of you might be familiar with like chopped carbon fiber, where it's like carbon fiber, but it's like chopped up into little tiny strands, and so it doesn't really do the same job as carbon fiber. But if you mix it with like plastic, you can make carbon fiber filament for a 3D printer, for example. And it like
Okay.
the theory is that the strands of this chopped carbon will go between the layers of the 3D prints are done like almost like one layer at a time. And that's green. It's green. That's why it looks like a cloaking device. It's green. Um, yeah, I got a lot of shit on my desk. So here we go. We got this thing right here. Oh, hey, where'd you go, camera? All right, there we go. And you can see layers there. So the idea is that if you had like chopped tiny strands, they're very narrow, but if they're going between the layers, that would help with the structural integrity because
Right.
3D prints can be very sketchy like that. This is actually a stronger type of plastic, so it's not sketchy. And yeah, so Snowdub points out that he's also blocked the means of destruction. And we might have the same issue. Maybe if I find a solution, I don't think I'm going to find a solution, but if I do, maybe we'll have an answer to his trouble there too. And we also have Zanzoltan in the chat, the legendary Zanzoltan. It's good to see you, man. How you doing? So yeah, so that's I just wanted to see what your thoughts were on graphene. That's all I gotta say on graphene because I don't want to dwell on graphene. I'm not a fan. So okay, here's one now. We brought this up on your show like a week ago, and
Okay.
or like in the chat, and I mentioned this to Nerdporeal Lifeform in a comment, and he goes, "Oh, maybe we could talk about it on my show." And I just forgot. We talked about everything but this. The Hindenburg, I believe, and I want to hear you out on this. I'll definitely hear you. I know I've been talking a lot. The Hindenburg, in my opinion, was hype. And I actually believe that we can make a case for hydrogen instead of helium. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, back in the day when they did do the Zeppelin, the Hindenburg, and no other country would sell Germany helium. It was
True.
more expensive. Hydrogen was cheap, and I'm sure they did it through electrolysis in order to get all the hydrogen they needed. Nowadays, we would probably have even better safety standards in order to deal with something with hydrogen. And don't forget, it's also such a small molecule that you are going to have leaks no matter what you use, unless they can come up with a material that can contain the hydrogen so that the molecules can't sneak by the other molecules of the material you're using. like for a gas bag and such. So
That's
if we
interesting.
can do that, maybe you could get back into doing lighter than air travel. Um,
Well,
Still,
yeah.
we could probably make helium um,
Well, can we
even
make
better.
helium, or do we get? Well, see, here's the problem with helium is because I looked into this. I said, like, is helium something you make? Is it like nitrogen where you can extract it from the atmosphere? Because there's ways to extract nitrogen from the atmosphere, put it, I think, under pressure to get liquid nitrogen.
Right.
And the thing is that helium, one, being lighter than the normal atmospheric gases, it's going to float to the top. So it's like hard to hold on to if you don't capture it. And then two, we don't directly, as I understand it, at least from my minimal research, it tends to be like a side benefit. It's like something like you're mining for natural gas and you happen to capture some helium. So it's sort of like one of these things that you get alongside. So, maybe if the climate change crowd gets their way, we don't have any helium for the medical industry. So, well, anyway, but that's a different topic. But
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, so point being is that it seems to come from natural gas exploration and extraction. And so that's one of the factors. I think that's why it's so scarce. It's not as convenient to make, like you described. You can make it to you can make hydrogen to like electrolysis today. In the past, I was looking into this because I was watching a YouTube video where somebody was launching a replica of a French balloon from like the 1890s or some crap, and
Right.
they use like a mixture of chemicals to essentially, like, as these chemicals do whatever they're doing. Maybe there's microbes in there. I don't know. They emit hydrogen through a gradual process, and as long as you have a hose hooked up, it gradually fills up the balloon. And so that's how this particular French balloon was able to get lift. And this person was running a replica in modern era, so apparently it was safe enough to do this. I mean, granted, I'm sure they weren't smoking any cigars next to this balloon. And that
No.
brings up another point, though. You mentioned the molecular size of hydrogen, and that's a very good point because that was one of the problems with the Hindenburg was that, well, not just the problem, but like, and you did mention, yes, no, we didn't want to sell our helium to the Germans at the time, due to tensions and whatnot. But even today, like, would the Hindenburg be a sound design? Perhaps it would have to take a different form. But I do believe that the Hindenburg is touted as an example of why hydrogen is bad, and I think it's done more damage than good at this point. To see this stupid newsreel where the guy's like, "Oh, the humanity!" Like it's fun to watch the thing burn. I mean, I don't think it's actually fun to watch it burn, but apparently, like, enough people think it's fun to watch it burn that they keep showing us the newsreel, like, since childhood, and it solidifies this idea in the mind. And I want to say greetings to Dad Man Walking. We got a dad. Whenever I hear that name, it's like I picture the movie. What was it? The Green Mile, when they go Dead Man Walking, except it's Dad Man Walking, and then he's got this wholesome banana dude in the avatar, which, like, once I see the banana, I forget about that depressing part of
Yeah.
the movie. But I do love the banana avatar, and I do want to say hi to my friend Slim Nim, who plays some very interesting games. I do recommend subscribing. I recommend subscribing to everybody here. And soon I'm going to be doling out some more wrenches because I don't have time to be posting links right now. Otherwise, I distract my thought process. But where were we? We were talking about this helium hydrogen. Oh, yeah. So the Hindenburg went through a lightning storm. And so now it picks up a static discharge. So as it's about to land in New Jersey, I don't know if it was Linden, New Jersey or somewhere else, but it was going to land in New Jersey. It's already got a charge. And so one of the procedures for landing a blimp is to drop some lines so that
Yes.
men on the ground can, like, pull it down. And there's some maybe this is not hilarious. I think okay, I'm going to admit, I think it's kind of, it's like semi-hilarious. So there's videos of, like, sailors, people in the U.S. Navy, pulling down the U.S. The Akron and the Makron, which was the American airships that came after the Hindenburg, and these were helium lift. They were filled with helium at this point. But, like,
Okay.
you'd imagine you got like 100 sailors on the ground grabbing the lines, and you get a fucking gust of wind, and the fucking blimp decides it wants to stand on its nose, and now you got like 20 guys like holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
And one or two poor fellas are falling down. So, of course, I think we can engineer. I think you can engineer a solution to that. But I'd say, like, there's a way to automate that. You can make a grid, a robotic grid, almost like a set of, like, train tracks on a grid that would just maybe grab the cables. I think you should take the human out of that part of the process. And we got the Whooper Trooper. Oh, Whooper Trooper's got a wrench. Hey, what up, Whooper? Good to see you, man.
Go.
So So that was that's like one angle. But getting back to the hydrogen, so yes, like you said, the molecule is really small, so the Hindenburg is leaking its hydrogen. It just went through a lightning storm, so now it's carrying an electrical charge, and now they dropped the line. And you can see in the one of the videos that precede the actual newsreel, you can see that it's when they drop that line that's when shit hits the fan, basically, and the
Hmm.
thing starts igniting. And part of it was because one of the there's maybe 5 or 6 cells, basically like compartments in the balloon that separate the gas. So the idea is that you could have one compartment leak, and the others would still be
Yep.
sealed.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
one compartment's leaking more than the other, and then you drop this line on the ground, you get a completed grounded circuit, and I don't know. Pop culture. David Glenn asks, "Is the pop culture mechanic engineer in real life?" And I'm gonna say that pop culture mechanic is a skilled tradesman. But you tell
Yeah.
me, or you, I guess, yeah, that's in your
I,
ballpark.
I'm not an engineer. I've worked with enough of them, but I am not. I am classified as an industrial mechanic slash millwright. So that is my trade.
What's the opposite of a millwright?
The opposite. It's
Yeah.
going to be a mill wrong.
Okay. Good. Okay, we're on the same page here. Cool. That's all. I mean, I wasn't expecting that answer. I mean, I was. That's what I had in my mind. I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest. So, but yeah. So that's the Hindenburg in a nutshell. So of course, how can we make it safer? So here's an interesting idea. There's two things now. One, a vacuum. Now, there's no real way to do this, but the idea is if you had a material that was light enough and strong enough, and you had a vacuum inside of the lifting bag, so to speak, that would be lighter than air and should produce lift. But the reality is, by the time you put the materials in there with the required strength, it would be too heavy. So that's a no go, I guess, at the
Hmm.
moment with the current scientific progress. But I'm still an advocate because I believe that right now the helium is too precious. We need liquid helium for the MRI machines to cool down those super strong magnets. So yeah, I don't think that works. Next topic. Neil deGrasse Tyson once answered a question on the Joe Rogan show or experience, and Joe Rogan's like, "Oh man, can we have flying cars?" And fucking this asshole Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, sometimes he could be cool. I used to like his show. I think it was called Elegant Cosmos, and he would talk about quarks. It was like the most dry and boring show, but I liked it because he's explaining all of this crap that is so abstract to the average person. I don't know why he had to stop doing that. That was fine. But anyway, he answers the question about flying cars. First, he gives this mind blown expression. He goes, "We already have those, man." And he explains that those are called helicopters. And I'm like, asshole. I'm looking at the YouTube screen going, asshole. That's not what fucking Joe Rogan is talking about. He's talking about the fucking DeLorean and Back to the Future, too.
Yes.
He's talking gravity repulsors. He's talking anti gravity. We know about helicopters. We can put fans or we can put wings on rotors.
Hmm.
And so I was really upset with Neil deGrasse Tyson because I don't know if he was just acting like he's thick headed or if he's genuinely thick headed. But I don't know. Any thoughts on this story I'm
So,
telling?
so I don't have any much respect for him since the way he started acting. He's no Carl Sagan. He's no Stephen Hawking. I know he probably wants to be, but you know, uh, his answers. Don't be so flippant with your answers. You know what Joe Rogan is asking. He wants to know if there's any anti gravity or anything like that,
Yeah.
and it's your car, not a helicopter, which is a flying machine. That's fine. He asked automobile. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got no time for him. I don't bother wasting my time. And to
That's
answer David
interesting.
David Glenn's question, uh, I don't work with any CNC machines. That's getting into programming with CNC or being a machinist. They would know a lot more about that than I would.
And I want to say greetings to Lorenzo Sleestack as well tonight. Good to see you, my friend. And the Padawannabe is here too. I mean, I'm excited to see both you guys here today. Yeah, and the Padawannabe says, "Hello, all." Wave. Yeah, Rogan tries to make fun and cool, and he still. Ah, crap. The little eyeball in the corner of my screen is blocking the words.
He still dads him. Well,
That's okay.
actually,
Yeah, and he still dads him Well, actually, I think you spelled that wrong. Padawan, I think you misspelled actually there. You're supposed to like have glasses and do this. Well, actually, you should have the glasses emoji up. How dare? Okay, I'm pulling his leg now, but I appreciate that comment. Thank you, David Glenn. And two, CNC, isn't that the thing on Battlestar Galactica known as command and control? No, I'm kidding. I know, computer numeric control or computerized numeric control.
That's right. Exactly.
Where you're carving slugs of metal. I looked into it multiple times. I was thinking about like building a poor man's CNC. I was going to take a Dremel rotary tool, put it on a drill press, and I just decided this was madness, and I didn't go any further. But
probably for the best.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. So like I was looking into it. It's like the chuck, the part where you put the tungsten carbide bit. Oh, there we go. Okay, Padawan, I approve.
There you go.
So like the tungsten carbide bit is often held on by like a much larger version of what I'm about to show you on the screen. But like this is like obviously like a hexagonal bolt or an Allen key maybe. I don't know if I don't know the difference, but you know, if this was like a spinning chuck, you'd want it to be like really held in there. And normally
that's just a set screw holding
that's
that
oh, here's a set screw. Okay, this is my
that's
scoring tool, by the way. So what I do is I put a bit in the end of this, like a pointy bit, and then I tighten into place. But on a CN, I mean, it resembles. I know this is like superficial. This is a superficial comparison here, no doubt about it. But you know, the idea is that you tighten this thing real well, and it's gonna stay. But a power drill, you have that chuck that you rotate with the key, and imagine doing machining on that with the amount of vibration.
Mm-hmm.
If that shit gets undone, I don't want to know what happens if that tungsten carbide bit comes out like while it's spinning at like whatever RPM. I mean, you'll lose an eye. Might lose a skull.
There's guards on all the machines, and you have to be careful whether you're going up hand or down hand with the bit, because otherwise it'll grab the piece that you're trying to machine, and it'll rip it right out of the vise, or it'll shatter the shatter the tool. So you have to be extra careful doing stuff like that. Take small bites and make sure you know which way to go.
And this is why I did not build something myself. It's like what they had was, okay, you have a drill press for the Dremel rotary tool. Then you get this like table, it's like 50 or 80 bucks on Amazon. And it's got like two hand cranks, and one is the X axis and the other is the Y axis.
Yeah. And
so theoretically you could turn these two things, not very precisely, but get various, you know, shapes and whatnot. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't go down that road. But CNC, they do have these videos that some people enjoy watching, where they just watch the metal filings fly off. And the next topic, UFO. Okay, this is what it says on my list: UFO crap / DJ's BS. Different DJ. I'll explain that in a moment. But you know, recently you had and I don't know. This is by the way, this is like I was not exactly planning on this format, but I made a list and I've been just rapid firing. I hope this is like. Hope I'm not making it uncomfortable just shooting shit in your direction here. I think this is pretty fun. How are you doing so far?
No, it's okay. I don't mind spending a little longer time on stuff if you want to. Like I do like the machining stuff and all that. Like if you really want to see some awesome machining stuff, look up electrical line discharge machining.
Oh yeah, those are cool. You showed that on your channel once.
Yes, that's really cool. That's for the stuff that precision that you really need to have some awesome fits with the parts. But yes, UFOs, we can do that, no problem.
But I do distinctly remember seeing this, and it was basically like a metal wire inside of like oil or electrolytic solution.
I think water, it's just straight water, deionized water.
Okay, so it's like pretty much as clean as the water gets. It's similar to distilled water, but even better.
Yeah.
Is there a difference?
You can't drink it; it'll kill you.
Oh shit. Okay, I'll have to look into that sometime. But that's very fascinating. I'm sorry. Never said it would be easy and just worth the entertainment. I do promote diplomacy. I do appreciate you exiting in lieu of, you know, expressing your opinion. I hope that we can all get along, and you know, all of that, you know, stuff we watch on Star Trek when it comes to diplomacy. But I do appreciate you respecting the chat tonight, and you know, I hate to see anyone show themselves out, to be honest. But I just hope that we can all someday, you know, I don't know, we'll talk sometime, but I understand and I appreciate I respect your opinion and position. But getting back on topic here, I was just double checking my YouTube playlist because I think I put something in. I don't know if I have the thing about the DI water. Not DI water, but yeah, basically it's almost like using a electrically charged wire to cut blocks of metal, and it's so precise that like if you have a block of metal and you cut like a rectangular, like, prism out of it, you could slide it out, and then it looks like there's a rectangular cut in the block. And then you take that rectangular thing, you slide it in there. But if it's sitting on a metal table, it's like there's nowhere for the air to go, so it doesn't move. So you pick up the block, and I could probably find a video. Yeah. Godzillionaire knows it. Yes, we were talking about electronic dance music. I mean,
Hey,
wire
Godzillionaire.
EDM. I'm pulling your leg. I'm gonna pull up a video for this one because I think this is the best way to demonstrate this. So we're going to put this on my tertiary monitor. And so basically, I'm sure we can already see this guy using an EDM, electrical discharge machine. So he's already, there we go. You see like that puzzle piece looking shit right there?
Precision. That is amazing.
So that guy's using a regular saw right there. So I think what he's going to show is that EDM can do it using a more precise method.
Yeah, cleaning it up. It looks like. There we go. Yeah, get it. He's filing it, getting ready for the machine.
Okay, there we go. So there's a hot wire, or not hot. It's not hot, but it's electrically charged.
Electricity flows through it. Yeah.
I think I should probably, no, actually, I can't run the audio through that. I got to hook up speakers one day. So basically, this thing, a brass wire is acting as an electrode. It's taking the electrical current. These guys use some kind of CAD or other software to design what they're doing.
Yes.
It's 1/10 of a thousandth of an inch. And yep, he measures deionized water right there. You see, there we go. That camera shot was underwater, and you see like it's kind of sizzling or bubbling or something.
Yep. The water will turn color because of the rapid removal of the metal.
I see. And yet, they're literally saying exactly what you're saying. They're like, the water gets really dirty after 5 minutes. So I see like multiple videos of this, and one of the ones I saw was where like the guy's able to remove the puzzle piece, and you can, when you put it back together, you cannot see the line that separates the jigsaw from the rest of it. So this video didn't really do that, but we're gonna see if we can find an example. And it looks like this guy, he's probably selling it. Oh, there we go. So you can see, you can barely see the shape of the snowflake in there.
Yeah.
Oh, how did that come out? Did he use a magnet or something?
No,
oh, wait.
The edge of the table.
Did it just magically, at the edge of the table, like, did it just magically pop up? Oh, I see. Yes, I see. Put his hand under it. Okay.
And it's, the air has to get by.
Yep.
That's why it'll sink slowly down.
Because there's no room for the air to come out.
Right. He'll get it.
Easy does it. Let's make it a little metal, satisfying clinking sound. I'll explain why I don't have sound in a minute. Oh yeah,
Slimming is right. It's two pieces. Like they'll cut out the one and then they'll cut out the, like the snowflake will be from a separate piece of steel, but it'll be cut out to the same size as the other piece.
Is that what's going? Oh, so that's why. Okay, because otherwise, if you would cut it out, there would be like a gap. There would be a divider. So you have to cut them for separate pieces of the. But it gives you such accurate, such dimensional accuracy that this happens.
Look at that. That is slowly letting the air out so it can get rest in its spot there. And then when it gets in place, it'll be like poof. You can't even see it.
The grains from grinding, you can see. So essentially, I guess it's like from a different axis, maybe.
Yeah.
So in this situation where you see the guy doing this, and you can't even see a difference, and maybe that's because he's got like a similar block where the grains of metal are like going in the same direction.
Same direction. Yeah.
But yeah, that is very fascinating, and so yeah, EDM is a fascinating method, and just to show some love to our chat right here, not just love, just acknowledge the words you guys are saying, of course. And so yeah, like you said, you're right. Slim Nim said it, and you conveyed that to me while I wasn't reading the chat. I'm glad somebody's reading the chat. It's like done with two blocks, one inside the other. Yeah, no, I gotta say, this is a really bumping chat tonight. I think just having like your avatar on the thumbnail image like did something. Like I think it's like they're like, oh shit, he's got a real guest on tonight. We gotta get in. I mean, Punkwater's a real guest too. People came through for that one too. But it's like they see this thing, they're like, oh, that's a refined avatar. Is that the one that I know what's his face? What is like your original avatar? I know Angry Canadian also did a really cool avatar, right?
Yes, Angry Canadian helped me out make my anime one and my gaming one, different colors. And
Hmm.
he cleaned up this one for me. But my original one was a full body shot, but I like this one a lot better. More simple, more direct
Hmm.
to the point.
This was very high resolution. Now, I didn't know you had a full body one, but I was not gonna have you stand on the moon, but it looked really weird to have like a half a body sticking out of the moon's surface. So I
True.
went with the image I have, but that's okay. It just works out. It's just funny. But no, this, I gotta say he did a great job cleaning it up. I'm gonna guess. I'm guessing he might have done some vector work. Maybe he did it. I'll ask him one day.
Yeah, like
Um,
he's really good at it. Like I really appreciate what he did for me.
Word. I think it was beautiful work. And Lorenzo Slezak says, please make sure to check out Pop Culture Mechanic at this link. He put a link in the chat. And then
Thanks,
Lady Miss,
man.
word. Thank you. And let's see here. Gazillionaire says they use this a lot in the aircraft industry. Sometimes the gut threads for precision. Wait, the gut threads? I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, cut
Or
threads.
cut threads. Yeah.
I guess there's like cut threads. I'm like, is that a procedure? Is that a term they use now? To cut threads for precision components. Whooper Trooper says, I never knew was how you make electric dance music. Yes, that is that's
It is.
that's the kind of DJ I am, Whooper Trooper. That's why when I go in people's when I go in Nerdporvio show, I always say not a DJ because I'm a electronic DJ. Who uses electro. What's that abbreviation mean again? The one for
Electric.
the machining.
Yeah, electrical discharge machine.
Got it. Yep, electrical discharge machining. So yeah, that's why I always say I'm not a DJ because I'm actually an electrical discharge machining disc jockey.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. Sounds kind of fun. So let's see here. Then we got Gazillion acknowledging Comrade Leader. Oh yeah, Happy New Year's, Alex Moore, to Alex and all. And I believe Alex was saying that to everyone. Pops has a wife. Of course he does. Come on, he's like an upstanding citizen. You don't like get a guy who works this hard, and I'd say you probably work smart as opposed to hard because you seem to be pretty relaxed when you get off work. I'm just gonna guess, right? I mean, you don't feel overworked at your job. You feel like you earn your pay, though, right?
Not now. Yeah, and I'm relaxed now before I was because I'd spent, and people may or may not know this. I did spend about 15 years in the waste management and
Cool.
recycling area. So I dealt a lot with a lot of breakdowns from where it was because they took all the city's garbage and turned it into compost, and they also took all the city's recycling and sorted it out. So anybody who's spent a little time on my Trades Talk Tuesdays would know I show pictures from there, and they can see all the gross things that you'd see at the dump.
Yo, I remember like seeing this TV show where like they had this like weird spiral mechanism. I guess it would sort the garbage and things of a certain size would fall through like a strainer.
Yes.
And there was a shopping cart gets stuck in the freaking thing. So some poor fuck would have to climb up there with like a fucking fence post or something like I don't
Yeah.
know, like shake
Yeah.
it out. So I could just imagine based on what I saw there, what what you're describing, what you dealt with. Wow, okay, that's fascinating right there. And yeah, I didn't notice, but Whoopi Trooper says Angry Canadian is awesome. He cleaned up my avatar without even asking. It looks so much better. It does. Yeah, I gotta say, yeah, avatar. I don't remember what it looked like before, but I was noticing that recently. Like today, actually, I'm looking at Whoopi Trooper's avatar, and I'm like, wow, that thing looks really crisp. I'm like, this must be from the Pokemon show or something. Like it's really crisp. And apparently, that's the answer to the question. Angry Canadian is the answer.
Yes.
Who is the Pops guy? Pops is the guy who does a show called Talk Hard. He did his last stream of the year. He's also selling some comic book stuff. So if you check out at Pops on YouTube, so do like youtube.com/at Pops. He's a man in Florida, really cool guy, nice guy. Sometimes he even watches my videos and leaves a nice comment on him, so that's cool too. But yeah, he does sometimes he does some mecha content with Loki. So you being the Godzillionaire, I can't believe like not mecha, kaiju content. Yeah, like if you go back to Pops' channel and look up like any of the episodes where he's talking about Godzilla or other kaiju movies, yeah, that might be up your alley there. Yeah, so I recommend at Pops, which is distinctly different from at Pop Culture Mechanic, who's over here. Never heard of him, Godzilla. Oh my god, you guys are missing out. He's a real gentleman too. Hey DJ Ronnie G, you should ask Pops about how trustworthy I am.
Oh,
Pops. Wait, Pops? Wait, he said Pops. He
he
meant
meant
you,
me.
Pop. He meant
Yeah.
the singular Pop. So,
Yeah.
how trustworthy is Whooper Trooper?
he is quite untrustworthy. As we were playing a game earlier, and it's one I hadn't played before, and he told me to go pick up a frisbee, but it wasn't a frisbee; it was a landmine, and yeah, he sent me to my utter and complete destruction.
A
So
frisbee.
don't trust the Whoopa.
A frisbee. That's some frisbee right there. Boy. Oh boy, I don't even want to know. It sounds like Fortnite, but nobody plays frisbee in Fortnite.
No, no, this was Lethal Company we were playing.
Oh, well, I
My
think you
first time.
maybe. I don't know if you could really say that anyone is untrustworthy. I mean, it's like if anything, it's in the name of the game, Lethal Company. You're in company with Whooper Trooper. The game is called Lethal Company. So I don't know if this is a surprise, to be honest, that you picked up a mine when you thought it was a frisbee.
He told me to pick it up. He knew what it was, and I didn't. He's like, "Go pick that up." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Boom.
Is that the game Whooper? Is that the game he's playing before the diving suits?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's what that game. I was wondering about that game. So it reminded me of Space Engineers, but it wasn't. And then someone described it as like Among Us underwater. But that was Lethal Company. So what's the deal with that game? Tell me a little bit about Lethal Company.
Yeah, from what I've seen, like I say, first time playing it today, it's apparently you have to go and loot planets. So you're sent by the company, which is obviously the company that you have to collect loot for, or else. And you go out there and you scavenge things without trying to be killed by all the various flora and fauna that populate that planet. And sometimes you make it, and sometimes you don't, and sometimes people throw you under the bus when you least expect it. And yeah, trust no one, right, Whoopa?
And that sounds just as fun as Mario Kart. The reason that I don't play Mario Kart on Saturdays is because, you mind your own business, you're driving a race car, and somebody shoots a freaking turtle shell at you. And one, I'm a turtle keeper. Okay? I love my turtle. And so now I got to ask, are these shells vacated? That's funny, actually. When they play Mario Kart on the Snowdub channel, Shellback, he'll be like, those shells better be vacated. Because you can find, you go to a lake, you can find some vacated turtle shells, but taking one that's not vacated, maybe look at that. Look how innocent Poffy looks. She's so innocent. Look at her adorable little squishy face. I just want to squeeze it. All right, jokes aside, though. So let's see what else we got here. It's a super fun game, and only $10 according to Whooper Trooper, which I don't know if I trust him. It might be $50 based on how trustworthy he is today. But jokes aside, he says it's worth the game of the year in my opinion. Padawannabe says he saw it. It was set up for sure. Whooper collected. It was a setup. Oh, it was a setup for sure. So yeah, you were goaded into like touching a landmine, man. That's messed up. Lethal Company equals go scavenge junk. So Cthulhu won't kill you, according to Godzillionaire. Oh my God! It's like it sounds a bit like you have Subnautica.
I've heard the name. I haven't played it.
It's like it's got pretty graphics, and there's two versions. There's Subnautica, and then there's like an Antarctic or ice world. And so you're on a spaceship that crashes on some oceanic water world, and you start off in a life pod. And in this life pod, you have some basic supplies to get started, but you got to basically start doing a survival routine. And you could see your crashed spaceship, which in my opinion looks like the ship from Futurama, but larger. But you would think well, why don't I swim towards my ship? Maybe there's some supplies in there. So you start swimming towards your ship, and then the game starts telling you oh, radiation warning. So apparently the reactor housing is blown open, and so it's not a safe place to approach. And so that's why you have to go instead underwater, kill some fish, get some materials, build something, and the usual routine in a survival game. So, what I was seeing so far and what I'm hearing being described of this bad company, what the hell is the name of the game? A Lethal Company. Which it is bad company that making me pick up landmines. But Lethal is as accurate as a name as any. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. I'm hearing like almost like the movie Alien. We have the Wayland Yutani company, and it's kind of reminding me of a bit of that too. It's got some Subnautica vibes. Maybe for $10, maybe I'll give it a try.
Yeah, why
Yo,
not?
David Glenn, you have a good night. He's dropping out, so we're gonna say good night
See you,
to David
David.
Glenn.
Nice to see you.
He's one of my favorite people in the chat during any stream.
Oh yeah.
But everyone here rocks. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see everyone. I'm just happy to have people watching this shit. No, I'm just kidding. This is not shit. This is a quality show today. So let's see here. And Padawan says, "Oh yeah, I need to make a ghost or two for DJ Ronnie." Oh yeah, yeah. So okay, so we'll talk about that sometime. Because I remember, like, I think Padawan does the thing where he mails a Nintendo cartridge to like Matt Cave, and then they try to beat each other's times, and then he mails the cartridge back, and they beat each other's times back and forth.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
it's pretty cool, and I think I might even be able to make a backup of the cartridge with the save data. Because my biggest fear would be that the data gets lost in the mail, but I do have the capability to back up Nintendo 64 memory cards to the PC now. Like, I have to do it through. Remember, like, you gave me the MPEG encoder? It's same
Yeah,
method.
did that work out for you?
So basically, I have to give it an input format that's compatible. So it's like, whereas most modern video encoders, you can just throw any video codec at it.
Yeah.
That video encoder, TMP-ENG, it requires that I give it something pretty specific, like either an AVI or like an AVI that conforms to something rather specific. So I'm going to install an old version of Adobe Premiere, most likely in a virtual machine as well. There's still a chance it's going to be part of my workflow. I just got to figure out like what codec I need. So there's a few ways I can go. I can use FFmpeg to generate a basic AVI, and then take that AVI and give it a TMP MPEG. So that might be one option, but I got to finagle. It wasn't as like simple as me taking like an existing MPEG 4 and supplying it to that program, which, I mean, no surprise there, but it is good to have. Like, it is in my virtual machine. It ain't going nowhere. I have a backup, a snapshot, so that if I break that virtual machine, I don't have to. Although it's really easy to install the app, so that's good. It's on my RAID array. It's on my Z pool. I ain't losing that shit. You'll never hear me go, I need another copy, because that thing is like backed up in triplicate.
Okay.
Yeah, and Gazillionaire, that is a red-eared slider. So you got my girl Puffy on the left right over here. And then you have her stepsister right here. I'm going to just pop into this view real quick. And so that's her stepsister. Her name is Squirtle. And this is my webcam. So we're going to move the webcam out of the way. And then over here is Squirtle's scoot. See that little piece? That's part of Squirtle's shell. So unbeknownst to me, Squirtle climbed on top of this enclosure while I wasn't home, shedded one of her scoots, and went back inside her side of the tank without me knowing. And to give you an idea of what you're looking at right now, so there's like a divider going down the middle of the tank. Like, so from the length of the tank from front to back, you got like a wall, right? But then the problem is this girl on the left sometimes climbs over it. So I had to put like another barrier on top. So you have a T-shaped barrier, and this is me holding the scoot, and I was able to match the dark spots to figure out that those dark spots belong to this girl right here.
Okay.
So anyway, Squirtle somehow got around the edge of that barrier and went over and around, walked around on there for a little while. And because like sometimes like they do funny things. Now, the reason you're seeing what you're seeing now is because it was egg laying season. And so what happened was Puffy, I don't need to see my face. Puffy here, was anxious to get out to lay some eggs, and so I take her out, I put her in the backyard, I try to do different things, and if she doesn't lay the eggs in the dirt, she'll lay them in a tank. But yeah, that's what happened there.
Okay.
So yeah, red-eared slider, she lays eggs around March usually. So this year I'm gonna build like a little sandbox next to the tank where she can, like, instead of like, she's got like a basking platform, basically freshwater turtles, they have to, they're not like fish. They do live in the water, but they surface regularly to get air. They can hold their breath for a really long time, but the warmer it is, the faster their metabolism is, the like the shorter they can hold their breath. So when the water is cold in the winter, they can hold their breath for like an obscenely long time. And it's like those Buddhist monks that they talk about in TV shows that can lower their heart rate to like 2 beats per minute. I don't know if that's real, but
Right.
I've heard of this in like, some fictional stuff. So turtles can do that for real. They can slow their heart rate down to something so slow that their oxygen needs are so little, and I know it's going to sound like I'm making it up, that they can breathe through their cloaca or their butt.
Right.
Because essentially the water has oxygen and it goes through the blood vessels and they can take it up. But it only works when it's cold and when their heart rate is really low. Most of the time, if it gets really cold outside, they're supposed to go to the bottom of the pond, bury themselves in some muck or dirt or silt, and then just kind of like sleep until the water warms up. And this only works as long as there's liquid water. If there's like if the pond is too small and it goes completely solid, just about every turtle species except for one that I'm aware of will die from that. You know, there's one species that has like a natural antifreeze in their blood or some crazy routine like that.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's cool. I didn't know you like turtles, Godzillionaire. But yeah, I got I got into turtles in my adulthood, but I have 2 aquatic turtles, as you saw in the video, Puffy and Squirtle, and I have 1 tortoise. So I might fire up a maybe that'll be my alternate YouTube. Oh, okay, wait. I'm not gonna tell anybody my alternate YouTube name because I gotta see if I can create that. I'll just you guys aren't gonna steal from me, are you? 2 turtles and 1 tortoise. I'm gonna try that. All right. Do that after the show. So anyway, yeah, so you know, like that's the thing. All right, I'm gonna try that. You know, oh my god, that could be really rowdy. So I'm so glad we touched on Neil deGrasse Tyson. Let's see here. Oh god, okay, so this DJ BS. So let me tell you about this. So there's a YouTuber that was recommended to me a long time ago when I was bitching about and thank you, Godzillionaire. If I fail to get the other name, I will use you tortoise. Thank you. Yeah, I want an African spur-thighed tortoise too. So there's these tortoises, they're like this big. They become like 60 pounds of some crazy shit. Realistically, you really need to have like a backyard in Florida to take good care of them because you want them to be able to go outside, enjoy the grass, enjoy this natural sunlight. Yeah. You don't want to coop the poor fella inside, but they are remarkable. And you can look up a sulcata tortoise or a large African tortoise. They're just amazing. And yeah, like I had a coworker had when he said it walks around the house like a dog, and that's probably why it's not alive anymore, because a lot of people don't realize that you need to, like, you know, give the tortoise or turtles in particular need to be able to get dry so they don't get mold, they don't get shell rot. The UV light helps them synthesize vitamin C. But okay, so getting back to the topic here. So before I mentioned UFO crap and DJ's BS. So what happened was a while back I was bitching about Tim Pool, and someone goes, "Oh, that's why I stopped watching Tim Pool." And then he recommends another guy named Dark Journalist. And it's this guy named, I think, Daniel Litzt or some crap like that. And basically, he wears a suit and he talks about UFO crap. And some of the stuff he says, I would agree with in general. Like, he'll talk about the guy who used to appear on Fox News. There's this guy, he had a goatee. His name was Luis Elizondo. And he was the guy, whistleblower from the Pentagon UFO office saying, like, oh, these are definitely ETs. And so a lot of people, like especially like my dad's older than Boomer brother. There's a generation that came before Boomer. I think they call it the Lost Generation. Right. He's like, oh no, what do you mean? No, he's a military guy. So apparently his attitude is like, you got to trust the guy because he's a military guy. Because nobody in a high-ranking position lies. And so Dark Journalists argue that no, the guy worked in Army counterintelligence, which is true. He did. And around the same time that he said he was working for some trading company, he also said he was working for the Pentagon UFO office. So there's some like contradictory things in his, like, you know, like, I guess, work history, so to speak. And so, you know, ultimately, like, look, I'm not closed-minded to the idea of aliens existing, but UFOs exist in the same manner that this piece of sandpaper is unidentified when it flies through the air until somebody identifies it. So I believe that UFOs exist by virtue of that this eraser. I'm just gonna throw random shit, but you get the drift. Yeah. So Dark Journalist's argument was that was one fool, and he calls out Elizondo, which I'm fine with. I'm actually fine with that. But then he makes these extraordinary claims. He goes like, oh, well, you know, if you work for a mapping company, a survey company in the ocean, or if you work for the Navy and they're surveying the ocean floor in the Bermuda Triangle, you sign a non-disclosure agreement saying that you don't see evidence. If you see like a pyramid under the water, you're supposed to like not say anything or you get in big trouble. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool, but it's like, show me the receipts. And what he'll do is he'll show pictures of people. He'll like talk about Kissinger, Henry Kissinger, and he'll show a picture. He'll be like, and this is a picture of Kissinger. And when you're talking about history, holding up pictures and showing names and pictures together is a helpful thing for the memory. Or like a mnemonic exercise or whatever. But, you know, tell me about undersea pyramids. It's like, I want some more receipts than this. Then he'll talk about like why JFK was, you know, assassinated. He'll say that it's because it was done by the aerospace wing of the military industrial complex, and it sounds cool, and maybe it's true. Maybe like if the military industrial complex, or facets of the military industrial complex, had anti-grav technology and perhaps technology that can create a lot of energy without very much waste, that would be sensational. If there was a group who had access to this level of technology, and here we are, we got all these people bitching about climate change, and yet an alternative exists that doesn't, cause that problem. Yeah, that would create a lot of issues, but he's not showing receipts. So I get really uptight because, like, now, of course, you might say, well, watch the guy's content. Maybe you'll learn something. So I did. I sit down, I watch The Dark Journalist. I not lately. And it's like fucking like a 4-hour stream. It's like this is touched on something before when I was talking about how I encounter people who, and it's okay to doubt the moon landing. It's okay, to doubt the Earth is round, but the Earth is definitely round. But your opinion, your response was just like, I don't have time for that bullshit. Or your attitude was like, I don't have time to argue that. Like, your attitude is just move forward. And so it's like sometimes I'm looking at this Dark Journalist guy and I'm saying this is interesting, but it's like I don't have time to watch a 4-hour podcast, and it's just clearly it drives me insane. And
Yeah,
I don't know, like.
so.
So, I mean, it's just interesting because, like, I look at the video and I say, okay, well, he's got to have sources. So I see the link to his website, and then it's like fucking more links to more of his fucking videos, part of my French. And so, yeah, that shit makes me tight. But you never seen Dark Journalist, have you?
No, I don't think I've ever tuned into that guy.
Well, probably don't waste your time. Maybe look him up just to see what I'm talking about, and so that you could decide for yourself. But I wouldn't really recommend expending much energy down that rabbit hole. But if anybody in the chat knows who I'm talking about, please put a 1 in the chat. And then let's see here. So so this is interesting. So Dark Journalist in a video said, you know how people say they ask, why is it that after the Apollo program we didn't go back to the moon? And yes, Slim Nim confirms. I think I said he says they're called the silent generation. The people before boom. Excuse my belch. The people before boomers are known as the silent generation, according to Slim. Thank you. So you know how like we haven't gone back to the moon, and frankly, I think it's just a matter of budgetary constraints and factors along those lines. I don't think there's any real nefarious thing. Like there's an off chance that maybe we bumped into ET on the dark side of the moon, and he was like, "Go no further," and that would be really creepy and interesting. But ultimately, I'm just thinking it's budgetary. What are your thoughts? Why do you think we didn't go back to the moon? Do you think it's something like more mundane, or there's a more nefarious thing going on?
It could be that they just well, this is what we discovered up there. Oh, okay. Well, it's not worth going back there again.
Okay, fair enough.
That could be it. Or it could be the fact that they're like, maybe we shouldn't come back here. There's something not right here. So it could be either two of those.
I mean, I'll admit the latter example, the latter you gave, is like very compelling, but just because it's compelling doesn't make it like the most likely. Right. I think we've heard of the term Occam's razor, but I do appreciate your ability to like consider both possibilities, and that's like what I try to do too, So Dark Journalists argued that one of the things people would say in general actually is that like, how can we lose the technology to go back to the moon? And so people like get upset, but they'll play a video clip where people at NASA are working on designing and testing the new rocket to go to the moon. And they'll say, how do we lose the technology? And they don't it's like, it sounds like a simple thing at first, but then you realize like the Saturn V rocket had these like F1 engines that are the size of a house or a small house. And each one had like a serial number and was practically handmade. Like some parts were machined, but like, it was like everything had customization. So the idea was like between like any 5 engines, not every engine performed exactly the same without modification. So the engineers working on it might, modify a pipe. I mean, hell, there's probably way more in your wheelhouse. And then they might make some physical notes. And bottom line is that even if we have the blueprints to the F1 engines, we don't have the notes from the individual engine units. So there's like a lot of like hard work that would have to be redone anyway. So the reason I bring up Dark Journalist in this matter of topic is because he claimed in one of his videos, one of his fucking 5-hour videos, so that shit gets me tight, he claimed that the USSR had the plans for the Saturn V and F1 engines, and they were willing to sell them back to the US for only $2,000, but that NASA and the US government did not accept. So he's trying to like illustrate this idea that there's some conspiracy at play. And it's like, well, once again, give me a fucking source. and that shit makes me so tight, as you can see. And so
Hmm.
that's the last thing I'm gonna say about that mother effer. But do you have any other thoughts on that matter?
I Not really, but I like what Godzillionaire brought up as a couple
Oh,
of points there. He's pretty sharp when it comes to stuff like that. He says you can't have the "it's not worth going to the moon" and the helium-3 is the super valuable resource we could really use. So that's another good point. Brings that one up.
interesting. And he also brought up another point too, and he said that Elon even said it. They had to recreate the Saturn V technology partially because all of the data was on old magnetic tapes, and that's another fact. So I gave some examples of why it was hard to recreate the Saturn V and the F1 engines. Godzilla, and I gave another example from Elon Musk, and that's also another issue is that the storage media is literally like very inaccessible unless you really want to bend over backwards to access that data. It's funny actually because I saw a video the other day from one of these like strange mysteries YouTube channels. It's probably just a text to speech engine, but essentially they were saying that like there was a former NASA worker, his house is being cleaned out after he died, and some of the cleaning guys find these like old Control Data Corporation. Control Data Corporation was a big supercomputer company and just computer company back in the day. They made mini computers and early mainframes. And so they had the tape drives and the storage media. So they collected the storage media. And then ultimately NASA was like interested, like, oh, you have it? We'll take a look or whatever. And NASA ended up destroying the data. And I'm going to guess that it might be the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. But ultimately, I don't think anybody working for NASA today has the ability to like even operate the technology required for reading those tapes. And I don't think they had any interest in putting any of their precious budget into reading those tapes. I mean, sometimes there could be value in getting the telemetry tapes read in. That's
Yeah.
another topic altogether. But yeah, and then Godzillionaire also adds units being serial number specific isn't all that odd. You'd be surprised how much industrial equipment is serial number specific. Oh, I don't doubt it. Like I thought it was actually a thing that would happen in the old days, but realistically, there's no reason why that wouldn't be the case today as well. And he says, I worked on a product line with all the old drawings on microfilm. Ooh, we have no microfilm reader. I bought one off eBay and expensed it. Well worth the $80.
That's
Wow.
it? $80 for that?
Uh,
Good job.
I'd imagine you could build one. It's funny that you bring up microfilm because a popular narrative is that microchips, microprocessor technology, is the result of the Roswell UFO crashes. The speculation being that like it was after Roswell that things rapidly accelerated in terms of computer technology, digital computers, consumer electronics, and it is a compelling narrative, but it didn't always sit right with me. Mainly because every time I've heard someone express it, I've heard different versions of the same narrative, and it just wasn't like consistent. But ultimately, I would just say, in a nutshell, making microprocessors is a lot like making microfiche. You have a larger picture, you're putting it through a lens, and you're shrinking it onto a film slide to make it smaller. And the opposite of that would be making enlargement. So once again, you take a picture on a
Yeah.
35 millimeter negative, and then you shine some light through it. You expand it through a lens, and you project it onto photo paper. So, I mean, that's like basically in a nutshell.
Right.
Word.
I have a question for you then. Um, yeah, Roswell happened in 1947, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When did the first transistor come out? What year was
That's
that?
It's a very good question. It wasn't long after, so I believe in the 1950s you had the first transistor. But see, the problem is what is the first transistor in 1950? Like you're gonna love this picture. We're gonna get a picture up on screen. No worries. Um, like what? Now, the first one was actually made out of wood. We got these like plexiglass replicas. I want to see if I can find a wooden version, but we'll get some examples on screen. So let me just make sure I got my let me just put my window on the right side so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so you can see this contraption here. It says like it
Yeah.
looks like a black thing or a plastic thing. You got some soldering lead in here, so you got some conductors and you got wires doing different things here. This is actually a replica of the first working 1947 is the answer to your question. And
Okay.
just like at a glance, I'm going to say that this doesn't look like you needed like a crashed UFO to figure out how any of this did what it did. I mean, I could be wrong. I admittedly don't know what this actually does, but we can check that out in a second. It looks like a heart in the middle. Might see a
Yeah,
little,
yeah, a little
little
bit.
heart
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It just seems a little bit strange to me. I mean, putting aside the idea of aliens and
Hmm.
all that, but if you have a ship that crashes and then all of a sudden we're in the transistor age, like and before that we didn't, nobody had an idea for a transistor. It could be we had a little bit of help. That's all.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I definitely don't want to be like a completely closed-minded, fascist on the matter. It's like this here, like this is like lithography. So this is like photolithography, and essentially they make one print in a larger size, then they have to shrink it down, and then ultimately they're making these are like multiples of the same microchip being projected over and over again on the same silicon wafer. But what did the first transistor do? Because maybe like that'll clear up like you know, whether or not it's like far fetched, and then we'll jump to the chat. First working transistor in 1947, replica. This is, and it should be noted the original had like wood in place of these transparent acrylic elements.
Ah,
This
yes.
is a replica of the first working transistor invented by John Bodine, Walter Brittain, and William Shockley. He's a big deal in the micro industry, and at Bell Laboratories, which, by the way, the anti-malip, the anti-malip, let me say that in English. The anti-monopol, I can't say the word right now. The anti-monopolistic legal proceedings done in the 80s against AT&T killed AT&T Bell Laboratories,
Oh,
according to a
yeah.
friend of mine. So I just thought it was an interesting little angle there. They discovered that by placing the two contacts close together on the surface of a crystal of germanium. A lot of early transistors used germanium instead of silicon,
Right.
through which an electric current was flowing. A device which acted as an amplifier was produced. It is about 4 inches high, resembles a cat's whisker. Detective early radio sets. Okay, so essentially, yeah, like it's a little amplifier. So I don't know. I mean, I should maybe do more homework on this on my own time, but that's the crystal right there that I think has I believe uranium might be a metal,
I believe you're right.
and so you maybe impregnate the crystal with this metal. Oh, let me move that over. Of uranium. There's a diagram down here we can take a look at, and in this one it says emitter, collector, uranium. Huh. So I mean, it's just a mere amplifier. And so before this, you would have been using vacuum tubes. So I guess vacuum tubes, those, I mean, get pretty intricate, believe it or not. And from what I can figure, vacuum tubes do just a host of functions. I mean, we were using vacuum tubes when we were, using CRT, a cathode ray monitor.
Yes, for radios
That's
and
it.
such. Yep.
Yeah, like even the monitor itself, like where all the transistors are dumped, the monitor tube itself is a cathode ray, is a vacuum tube in its own right.
Yep.
But yeah, let's touch on the chat real quick. Um, okay, so he said the timing of the Roswell incident was always interesting. 2 years after the first atomic bombs were used. So, to be fair, yeah, I mean, like if I was gonna come out with guns blazing with yeah, God, incredulity. Um, you guys are taking the winds out of my sails right now. I will admit. So that's okay. I mean, that's what we have guests for, right? We got to challenge ourselves and each other. Um, so I don't know. I have to come here with my notes and receipts or something, I guess, because I got nothing right now beyond that. Now you got me freaking thinking like shit. I'm gonna spend hours researching this. Thank you guys. Thank you for making me sink my life into this. Now, but jokes aside, I do appreciate it. And yeah, I remember moving a 32-inch CRT as well. It was a beast. Nearly lost
Oh,
my back.
were they ever? Yeah. Yeah.
My dad took some 2x4s, put on the stairs with a blanket, and slid that shit up.
Nice.
That's how he dealt with
Nice.
it. I have a Sun monitor that's only 21 inches, but it's like I don't even know how to like demonstrate the scale on stream unless I do this. Wait. Oh yeah, do that. It's like okay, this big. Yeah, the back of the monitor is like that, and then the front of the
Oh, man.
monitor is like only this big. So like the screen is like this, but the back is like bigger.
Yep. Yep.
And I moved it a couple of times, and one time I nearly pulled my back, and I got very lucky. I didn't actually hurt
Oof.
myself. And then another time I did it very cautiously, and luckily did not even remotely pull my back. It's like some people like say once you pull your back really bad, you never go back, and that sounds depressing. I hope that's not true, but I don't want to find out.
Takes a long time to heal.
Yeah,
Back injuries are the
definitely.
worst injuries you can get.
I took it really easy after that one, and I was just fortunate to be like, I think I was like in my early 20s back then, so my body was still in that, mode where it could recuperate from crazy crap like that.
Ah, yeah.
And so, yeah, so we basically covered everything in the basic list. So I think we're looking good here. I believe you do have a show tomorrow night.
Yes, I do. It's Trades Talk Tuesdays every 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So that's 9 p.m. Eastern. I usually go over the news out in industry, just seeing what's going on with whether people are getting hired or getting laid off, or whether they're building factories or shutting them down. And I also explain to people how they can get into the skilled trades and what to expect when they get there. And I also have pictures and videos of some of the projects I've been a part of, and people can stop by and ask questions and see some things they don't usually see in their normal everyday lives.
Excellent. And yeah, it's always a fun show. And I am actually off from work tomorrow, which doesn't make a difference because, I mean, I'm going to be awake regardless when your show comes on at the time it comes on. I think it comes out around like 9 p.m. my time. That's
Yes.
New York Eastern time.
Yes.
So, just do the math on a difference of times wherever you live and you'll get the correct time. So we got a link there. And yeah, so that's good to know. I was going to ask you some questions about streaming signs, but it totally slipped my mind. I think we covered a lot of ground tonight, and this has been fun pretty much so far. I'm gonna hold you hostage for another 78 minutes. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that. It's usually about an hour-long show, so we're on schedule. Usually we have some fun. Like I had Punk Water on, it went a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So no complaint there. But I won't hold you hostage. And
No, I don't mind. I
Gazillion,
got time.
kick ass. That rocks. I was trying to look at the chat window, but you're here, but you're actually here.
I am.
It looks like I'm looking at you, but I'm really looking at boxes. So, and then Gazillion has to return to work after 11 days. Well, I think Tokyo would be okay if you didn't return to work for like 20 days. I'm sure they just had an earthquake. They want to rebuild stuff. I don't think they want you knocking down buildings so soon. But yeah, did you hear about the earthquake in Japan?
Yes, I did. It's first thing I did was I tried to contact Angry Canadian because he's living in Osaka right now. So I reached out right away to see if he was okay, and I checked to see where the epicenter was and all that. So he's okay. He got back to me, so that's good.
Okay,
news.
so he's good. Yeah, I gotta see if Wakazashi is good. I hope Wakazashi's tea house is good. I saw like one webcam video, and it's like some of these houses look like doll houses, but they look really solidly built. And so one house crumbled, another house had the roof cracking, and then the rest of the house was just sitting there like nothing's happening because like that's the building code in Japan, from what I understand.
Yes.
You ever see the inside of a pagoda roof building, like those old temples?
Can't say I have. That would be something neat to see. I'd like to.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find it right now because a while ago I saw this example. So basically, those pagoda roofs have those. I mean, that's not really a pagoda roof, but it's got those like layers that like are stacked on top of each other. As it turns out, like each one can shake independently, and it's almost like they can have like waviness. In fact, this one might shake in an earthquake here. Let's see if this. It better shake it. Come on, shake. No, I'm kidding.
It'll shake, but it won't fall down.
Yep, that's the key right there. Is that you don't overly rigidify it so that it doesn't fall down. That is correct. I'm gonna find an example because I saw one like of a pagoda like shaking pretty thoroughly, and like you can just see like the oscillation between the different parts. We're gonna find this. Okay, here we go. So for reference, that's the type of pagoda structure I had in mind. And we're gonna just skip around. We're gonna find. Oh, good. I think it's gonna open up. I hope it does it. Okay. So in the middle, it's almost like it is a telephone pole going up the center to like the topmost element of that thing. And then so essentially you can see how the parts can like, there's even a mathematical equation in the corner of the screen. I don't know if it means anything, but we're going to see some examples of the construction at play.
Look at that.
So like nothing's being like, or at least they're careful about picking what parts are rigid.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's great.
So what I'm looking for is a video where you see the inside of the thing, and it's got like what looks like a telephone, like a telephone pole or utility pole, and that's China. So the buildings in China tend to fall down. That's how those work.
Without an earthquake, they fall over. I'm seeing that. They don't
Yeah,
care. They don't really care about each other over there at all.
it's kind of like their thing. And this is the Shinjuku Center building, and this is kick ass. You can always see the shit swaying. That's not just the camera shaking,
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much like a real life Jenga tower, according to Gazillionaire. And Whoopi Trippy says the same. I have to go back to work after 11 days. Oh, you mean you have to go back to work tomorrow after 11 days, not like 11 days from today? Oh, that's depressing. I'm sorry. See, when he said he had to go back to work in 11 days, I'm picturing like 11 days from right now.
No,
But
it'll be
it's
just like me going back tomorrow.
it's like like that 11 days is over. Like you're on
Yeah.
day 10, I think, or like maybe this is day 11.
Day 11 probably, yeah.
Wow, this is so. I don't know. I find this like interesting, like to see like these doing their thing. I hope I hope this channel ain't being filtered right now. I'm not monitoring any of the metrics right now. Usually I monitor if
Oh,
I
yeah.
get caught for playing other people's content. But like
Yeah,
they're gonna
it should be
try.
fine.
You'd be surprised how often I get like flack from the system.
Oh,
But like I must be doing it. This time is the first time I'm using split view a lot, so it's quite possible that the thing that detects that I'm playing other people's video might not get triggered since
yeah.
it's like half the screen.
Yeah, and most buildings sway anyway, like Godzilla is saying, just with the wind. A lot of those tall buildings, they'll move a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant to.
There's like one video. What happens? This guy goes in the middle of the pagoda building. He opens up like a little cabinet door. Oh, this might be it. This might be not the one, but this one looks like there's like a like almost like a cement or concrete column running up the middle here.
Right.
And you can see some separation here. So my guess is that this surrounding wall moves. His you got some dampers here. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm gonna rewind that. You can see it moving right there. Oh, so that's kind of a good example.
Nice.
So those ancient pagoda buildings, they literally use the same principle. So that concrete column you just saw, they do that with like what looks like a alpine pole or something like that. You know, it's like that's what they're dealing with. And apparently Mitsubishi makes rocket engines. It's like right there. It says inside Japan's most advanced rocket. I'm gonna bookmark that for later.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that Japan makes some world-class rockets. I mean, they're on their A game in many ways when it comes to that stuff. I gotta say, I'm glad we became friends with them after World War II.
Yeah, they certainly helped them out after the rebuild and all that, and then they went on to, with their determination, to make things a lot better and high technology and smaller. So that really drove their economy for sure after the war.
That's true. Very true. And guys, I remember my mom, she worked at Wall Street like in the 70s and 80s, and they used to like joke as Japan was doing really well at the time in the stock market and whatnot, and you know, general. And they say, who really won the war? Like, it's just a running joke. They weren't really bothered by it. It was just kind of interesting to see how well they were doing at the time. And Gazillionaire says, it's like the skyscrapers in New York City. They are expected to swap at the top several feet on any given day. It's crazy. So I guess like swap as in sway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. You say swap, like what are these like transforming buildings? Like swap components? That's kind of cool. Well, it's like my Victory Gundam, which there's a reason it's missing a leg right now. I had to give it some love. I had to like glue a cracked component and then let it set.
Yeah.
But it's ready to go back together. It's coming together really nice. Let's see here. But I'll show it off once it's done. Let's see here. The way the buildings move and sway, it's almost like they are an affront to God or nature. Tower of Babel and all. If anything, I would say that the building swaying is them respecting nature. I would say that affront to nature is the building that refuses to sway and continues to stand, because when that shit goes, it's gonna go.
We're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. But I got like a crazy one for you. Like straight. I don't know if this is out of the loony bin. It's kind of like one of the more compelling, but out there. I don't even know what you call this. If you call it conspiracy theory, we owe Japan for waifu their best contribution.
Agreed. Right on, Godzilla.
Indeed. We salute you. So, okay, here's one. And I'm not telling the story precisely, and I'm sure someone who's more well-versed in Bible, or someone who's like not even religious, who read more of it than me, would have corrections to this. So take this with a grain of salt. But many years ago, there used to be a guy named Bill or Bob Chapman, and he was like into collecting silver bars, and he would talk about like all that economic stuff and whatnot. Monetary economics and precious metals and all of that. And Bob Chapman gave his version of the Tower of Babel story. So he argued that, and this is also back like during the run up to 2012. And do you remember the run up before 2012? Like what that was like, the type of stuff that was coming up on YouTube?
Oh, people were going berserk because it was the end of the world according to the Mayan calendar and all that. Yeah, I remember.
And do you remember maybe like a name of a planet named Nibiru?
Nibiru, yeah. They said that was going to happen. It's going to come into we were going to come into contact with it or something, or yeah, I heard about that.
So that was all over. There was Nibiru, and there was the Nemesis system. And so actually, this is wild. So this is YouTube channel. I don't recommend going to this site. It's called YowUSA.com. I think it means Your Own World. So this guy, what he'll do is he'll repost videos of people pointing cameras at the sun and capturing lens flare, and it's clearly lens flare, but they'll say that this is Nibiru. They'll be like, oh, but you can only see it from this angle, and they'll be like, and it can't be lens flare because look, the person's moving the camera and the lens flare is not moving with the camera. And it's like usually like one of these things where like someone's kind of like lying and spitting in your eye telling you it's raining type shit, but a lot of people go for it. So anyway, that's like a lot. That was like a lot of Nibiru content in a nutshell. Was lens flare? Is this J.J. Abrams' website? No, but it is heavily inspired. It heavily inspired J.J. Abrams' work,
which is garbage and trash.
Yep,
I don't like his work.
Which a lot like what I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
But no, actually, this is better than J.J. Abrams' work, actually. I feel like this person actually put love into it. They might even believe in what they're doing. Maybe. I don't know if they really do. They might not. I think they believe in they're making money.
Well, yeah, enough to make a website, so.
So, at the time, like, leading up to 2012, that was like, there was a lot of talk of this Nibiru thing. So what is Nibiru? Is it a giant planet? Is it Planet X? Well, bottom line is that Bob Chapman's version of the Nibiru narrative was that, and it's actually why this part is compelling to me is because there is some truth to it, but it's not necessarily true for the same reasons the guy was making the case. I think Bob Chapman's been dead for like 7 years, so can't really ask him to confirm this anymore. His thing was, okay, you got the story of the Tower of Babel. So before the Tower of Babel collapsed, you had like some shaking, but actually before and around this time the building was collapsing from the earthquake. People lost the ability to speak. I think the Tower of Babel story is the one where like we got the languages of the world where everyone had the same language and then the languages started diverging or some crap. So in Bob Chapman's version of the Tower of Babel story, what happened was you had a brown dwarf star coming near the Earth, and obviously a massive body like Jupiter would cause earthquakes. Now you might ask, why didn't we see it sooner? Why didn't the astronomers of the time see it? Well, a brown dwarf star is dark. It doesn't put out a lot of light. It doesn't reflect a lot of light. But it's unlike Jupiter, it puts out a lot of really dirty radiation. So his speculation was that the earthquakes and the collapse of the Tower of Babel were caused by this brown dwarf star. The people losing the ability to speak, at least he said it was like, he described it like people were affected by the radiation, affecting their brain, losing IQ points, and losing the ability to speak. I don't know if that's a real thing, but I'll go along with it for fun. And so the big part that was compelling to me was that he described that the reason that this only happens once every so many thousand years, let's say 15,000 years, let's say, is because Nibiru is on a really elliptical orbit. So if this is the sun, and we're like on a relatively circularized orbit around the sun, Nibiru would be on like a highly elliptical orbit. In fact, I think the best way to do this is to just like look up a dwarf planet elliptical orbit, because this is just gonna, like, think in a nutshell, like show, you know, like what I'm trying to show. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we got some stuff here. So there's a couple of versions of this imagery here. I'm going to show two examples. So I resize the imagery here. Whoops. Oh, yeah, actually, exactly what we want. And normally, I did this with Punk Model like weeks ago, but I was too lazy to do it today. Let me just see if I can fix my camera angle real quick. Whoops, that's not it. Not super important, but I figure, why deprive people of the person in the corner talking to the screen if I could? Yeah, that's way too much shit in my OBS. Oh, here we go. Lots. Nope, I didn't find it. Okay, you know, we're just gonna do that. There we go. There, that's fixed. People can see me now. And where's my other screen? There we go. Okay, beautiful. I just want to make sure I'm like here so people can see. All right, so you can see right here, what are we looking at? So we're looking at the sun, and it says giant planets. So I think that's including like Earth, Jupiter, all of the inner planets, and even Jupiter, which is an outer planet. They're all inside this tiny little area where my mouse pointer is going, where you can barely see anything if you look at a phone screen. So I'll make it larger. So anyway, you got this right over here. And so everything we know is inside this tight circle here, bottom line. And oh yeah, in fact, everything, the inner planets and the outer planets are in this tight circle. So you can even see it says Kuiper Belt. So the Kuiper Belt is roughly in the neighborhood or just outside the neighborhood of Pluto. So your first 8 or 9 planets are followed by the Kuiper Belt. And then there's more. What comes after there? Well, you got a dwarf planet known as Eris, which is somewhere like closer, but in the neighborhood of an elliptical orbit similar to this. You got Sedna, which is right here. And so Eris and Sedna are like dwarf planets that are comparably sized to Pluto, just to give you reference. But Pluto is at least on a sane orbit relatively near the sun. And yet it took 10 years for our fastest probe to get there. But Sedna, you can see here how one side of its orbit, they have a term, it's like aphelion and periphelion. But bottom line is you got the far side of the orbit and the near side of the orbit. So the way Bob Chapman was going was, his belief was that Nibiru was a brown dwarf star, meaning a massive object like Jupiter, but not as visible. And on one side of its orbit, it would be a very elliptical, oval-shaped orbit. Nibiru, or whatever the heck it was, would fly really close to Earth on this side of its orbit. But then it would take like really long, like 15,000 years to circle again. So during the majority of its time around the sun, it's like, if it's near Earth over here, as it goes past Pluto, it's harder to see. And as it's like way out here, nobody's spotting it for like a long time. And so the idea was like every 20,000 years, whenever you see in the geological record a major cataclysm, it was because this Nibiru was making a close pass and causing catastrophe. And it just so happened that the last time it happened was in the Tower of Babel story. Now, this particular thing doesn't show you how big the orbits are, but maybe we could find some like, you know, like longest solar system orbits or something, because nope, this is bullshit. So it says like 165 years. That's like maybe for a real planet, but like dwarf planets. I'm just gonna see if I can get like a quick, like, here we are. Orbital period for Ceres, which is actually an asteroid belt, is 4,000 years. That's not actually that far away, but apparently that's, yeah, you know, we got some, I'm sure we get like a list, and here's some pictures here. We got, that's Eris, that's like the clearest picture we got of that particular. It's got one moon named Dysmonia. This is Haumea. Now, Haumea is cool. Now, it may not look like much in this picture, but I'm going to get you a better picture of Haumea right now, because, in fact, we can just do, let's do dwarf planets. So Haumea, they calculated that it should have a roughly oval shape like what we're seeing here. Like an egg. And that's probably where Roldan was born. Ceres is actually in the asteroid belt, but it's got a very spherical shape. It looks a lot like our moon. You can see here. You got Maki Maki, but let's get like an orbital period for 90377 Sedna. That's the full name of it. So its orbital period is where is it? I'm sure we're gonna get an answer here. So we're gonna do orbital characteristics, orbital 11,390 years. So just give you like a point of reference. We're looking at these elliptical orbits. We just looked at Sedna, which is this purple line over here, which we were looking at in a larger picture a moment ago.
Yep.
That purple line right here is an 11,000 year orbit, whereas Jupiter is like a 280 year orbit, like in here. And so we see this thing called the Goblin 2015 TG387. Let's see here, 2015 TG387. And it's got like okay, that's a different object now. So I just found a different object, but you have this plethora of objects. Like once again, this little bluish, like red circle here represents the inner planets, and then all these exotic dwarf planets are on these extremely elliptical orbits. And so at one point in its orbit, the Goblin passes pretty close, but not nearly close enough to mess with Earth. And part of the reason why people think there's a planet 9 is because some of the outer planets have these exotic elliptical orbits. Scientists think that there may be something massive out there that we just haven't managed to detect yet. So I forgot what the point was, but yeah, so that was that Nibiru bullshit years ago. And they did mention Nibiru in the Star Trek movie. I think it was the second one, the fake Wrath of Khan movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a different Nibiru. It was like one with these natives living on it or some crap. And they put the Enterprise underwater despite Scotty's recommendation to the contrary. Yeah, and which, I mean, I don't know. I had mixed attitudes. I thought part of it was kind of cool. And that's a 36,000, by the way, that's a 35,000 year orbit, just so you know. So, you know, I mean, like, point being is that maybe this is possible. Maybe this is something that happens. So I forgot why I jumped down this rabbit hole here, but any thoughts?
It was the Tower of Babel originally, like you explained
yes.
why people might have lost their ability to speak and all that. Godzillion think it's because of TikTok and such like that. That's another thing another theory that we'll have to put to the test. But if something comes by that emits a lot of radiation and has an effect on people's brains, it could very well be possible that that's what happened. I doubt we'll ever see it in our lifetime if the orbital time it takes is that long. We'll be long gone before any of that ever happens, and we'll never see any of it. So
well, I guess it would be interesting to see if we could find a find the planet 9. But I suspect if it was close enough to be within range of our lifetime, if it was close enough to affect us within our lifetime, even if it's like 20 years from now, I feel like it'd be a little easier to locate something like that, something of that mass.
It should be. Yeah.
So that's like my speculation as well. So compelling story, but yeah, I agree. Like, I don't really have any reason to think it's there. And these videos of lens flare are not at all doing it. If anything, they dissuade me more than anything in this universe. And that's the answer. Maybe Godzillionaire, maybe Planet X already passed by, and that's why we have TikTok and all these brain dead people.
No, they turned on the Hadron Collider. That's what happened.
Oh my God. So, man, don't even get me started on that one. I mean, as an interesting one, I do take what they're doing at face value for the most part. What I don't trust about it is when they don't get the findings they're looking for in the experiments, and they say that we need to build a bigger Large Hadron Collider. Like, dude, you already got all this shit. You got it. That's it. Work with what you got. Yeah, nobody cares anymore.
You don't need more. Also, for Slimin, the IQ drop was due to the interference with the education system. If we would have kept having a classical education in our schools, we would have been just fine. But it got messed around with at the beginning of the 20th century, and it made people stupider. So,
would you say that's related to like the embracing of the Prussian education system?
No. So what they used to have was the classical education system, which was based on the trivium, which is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And that's what the people in the 1700s, 1800s, and leading up to that, they all learned that way, which is why we had some of the best inventions and inventors in those time periods. People that were in the early 20th century, like in the 1900s, they would have had the tail end of that education. But after that, J.D. Rockefeller put money into the American education system, and he was like, "Here, you should teach the kids like this, so that they're just smart enough to run machinery and fill out paperwork." And you call them smart if they can remember things. That's how it went, and it shouldn't be like that.
So it's interesting because that sounds very much like the story of the founding of the American Medical Association, with regard to Rockefeller funding it and Rockefeller funding the schools that accredited with educating the future doctors. And this is sort of how like we went from like at least the U.S. or this part of America and probably Canada, but North America on the whole, they had like
Yes.
a variety of healing options. So if you want to go to a guy who does bone work to like put a bone together like an orthopedist, and they did a good job, word of mouth gets around and nobody's getting a limp from the guy's work, great. If you know a guy who's using snake oil, now, yeah, snake oil is often looked down upon, but there are remedies that legitimately use snake oil. I'm not aware of them. I don't know which snake does what, but there was a time where people were using, a combination of herbalism and all of this stuff. And
Right.
then as we transitioned the way that we teach medical stuff, created the accreditation registry and whatnot, it changed in a similar manner. Now, regarding the schools, one narrative I heard, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's similar to what you just described about how our education system would change. But I mentioned this Prussian education system, and the idea was that like the public schools you see in New York City, and when I was a kid, I went to a school that was a 100-year-old brick building with like a coal furnace in there, and like a lot of like elementary schools in New York City are like ancient, like they're like that
Okay.
fucking old. It's kind of
Yeah.
cool, but apparently they were modeled after like these schools that existed in Germany back when Germany was Prussia, back when it was a bunch of smaller principalities, smaller kingdoms of smaller,
Right.
centralized power. And so the story I heard was that there was a war, they got invaded, and the Germans were like kind of jealous, or they saw that the invaders were very orderly, and they were like, we don't want to lose another war. How do we become orderly? And they adopted their education methods, apparently. And so this Prussian system also is what gives you good factory workers. But I like the way you told it. I'm just giving the version I saw in some other YouTube video, and
Oh, for sure. Yep.
I'm not at all purporting the accuracy. I think you told it what you described sounded very accurate as well. So just it's like, but it also paralleled, which is why I'm bringing up the Prussian education system. And it's like the idea of teaching order, teaching people how to be a good student and a good worker, as opposed to a critical thinker, as opposed to someone who, like you said, invents amazing stuff. And it's true, like we had a lot of innovation in this country, a lot of very crazy not crazy in a bad way, but just a lot of very creative patents in the digital age. People were perfectly content to figure shit out themselves and
Yes.
sell it, and
Yeah.
it seems that we lost some of that. And then the few people who maybe make that, water engine we discussed a couple of weeks ago. What was the name of that guy or the engine?
Oh, Stanley Meyer.
Yep. And I believe that mysteriously his lab got robbed, and what got robbed from his lab was the actual thing that invention that allowed him to convert water into, to use water as a fuel for a car somehow. And one thing I always think about this, I used to think like, well, we have electrolysis. That's easy. But electrolysis can be a bit power hungry. And the big thing is about a lot of these like alternatives is that they were able to do, some of them at least, were able to do electrolysis in a far more efficient way, or somehow they were able to do it more efficiently. And that's like the secret sauce that I guess that potentially that the car companies or the oil companies do not want getting, mass produced.
Yes, because then there goes all the revenue. As soon as, and you got to be careful, because as soon as you start bragging to people like, "Hey, I did this to my car, and now I just have to put in a liter of water, and I'm good for 2 weeks," you'll get disappeared, man. They'll come by and they'll be like, "Yeah, this guy never existed. Whoosh, you're gone," right? And you'll never be seen from again, or you'll have a plane accident. You'll go down. Oh, but he never flew a plane before. Well, he tried and he crashed. So
he tied his hands behind his back and then shot himself in the head.
Just things
This
like
is some
that. But
shit.
it's a shame that there's so much suppression, and it's all due to greed. People, they don't want to change the status quo or do anything that's beneficial for people unless they can make a dollar out of it and be rich and powerful. I mean, it's unfortunately the way things are. Even Godzillionaire brings up a good point of look how much technology and culture have stagnated in the last 20 years. It's not a good thing. And I think he's right. I think it has stagnated.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like we got this micro revolution, we got the internet, we have all this wonderful stuff, and yet, despite these wondrous things, at least things like look, when I was a kid, I would have loved to have a device that could play TV shows in my pocket. Like I always wanted a portable TV when I was in grade
Oh,
school.
yeah. Yeah.
So like we got that, which is a blessing in its own way, but in other ways, it's like we got a generation now, and I'm not just trying to sound like the get off my lawn people, but this is an interesting thing. A friend of mine was reading a Reddit post, and it was basically it was a AMA post with a teacher, and someone asks the teacher a question, and like, what is different about students today compared to like 30 years ago when you started being a teacher? And basically, one of the things he said was that, well, the kids today are using all this technology, they have it, they take it for granted, but they haven't the least interest in knowing how any of it works. And not to use a broad brush, I'm sure this doesn't apply to every kid, but I know I think I see some of that in the modern youth. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I tend to go into that a lot on my trades talk as well because uh, working in the skilled trades, I have to figure out how things work. Sometimes you don't have the instructions or anything like that, and you have to dig into things. And okay, how does this work? How can I repair it? How can I make it better sometimes? And I feel that that's gone nowadays. It is gone. They're like, "Oh, whatever, throw it out, get another one." It's terrible that there is no
True.
inquisitive children anymore, and they want to learn things. It's saddening.
It's funny, like when I was younger, like and I started working in tech support, people would be like, "How do you learn all this stuff?" And it's like, one, it's not that extraordinary what I knew how to do, but I get that I maybe knew things they didn't know how to do, and they were willing to pay for a service. And I just like at one point in time, I didn't even know how to answer that question other than say, "Oh, I just learned how to build and repair computers to entertain myself." Basically, I was one of those kids whose parents did not buy a TV for my bedroom, so I
Yeah,
had to find another way to make that shit happen. And so when I realized I could take computers out of the garbage and build shit, and then put a TV tuner in a fucking computer or something. Like I was like, oh, this is cool. And real quick, I need to step away from my desk for 3 seconds. When I come back, I'll finish my story. We'll prepare to wrap by 12:45. Before by 12:45. But would you be able to hold the fort while I step away for a
sure,
moment?
sure. I'll
I
hold the fort. You betcha.
genuinely appreciate that. You rock, Mr. Wait, let me
Not a,
click this button. You rock,
not a
Mr.
problem.
Mechanic. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen, and feel free to acknowledge the chat. You can see the chat. You good on the chat, or
Yeah,
do I
we're
need
good
to?
to go.
Okay,
We're
excellent.
good to
Thank
go.
you.
All right, everybody. Come on, fire the questions at me. Let's go. We'll just go over here. Hello, James. How you doing? Nice to see you. That's why we haven't made a cure for diabetes yet. Almost like it's not profitable. You got it, God's in there. Same thing with cancer. Um, it's a $1 billion industry. What happens if they cure it? Lots of people will be out of work. We can make a light bulb last 100 years, but then nobody would need to buy a light bulb. iPhone. Yeah, there you go. You got her, Slimming. This is why the Woopstokian culture must thrive. Yes, more waifu research for Woopstotska there, Woopa. Takes logic and experience to figure out how something works without instructions. The lost art. It sure is. I know that for a fact. I've had to do that a few times. How to figure out machinery and all that and how it works, how to fix it, and if I'm allowed to, how to make it better so it doesn't break again. Your boss once told you can't teach curiosity. That's smart, man. You're right. You can't get people interested in things nowadays. It seems it's pretty sad. I'm quite saddened by that fact. I'm hoping that the more people that you know hear me, hear me out all the time because on Trade Stock I always tell people anybody who doesn't have a career path, send them my way. I'll get them interested in the trades and see what they can do. They can earn a good living. They can earn a skill that keep for the rest of their lives. So that's what I think about that. And back to you, DJ Ronnie G.
I'm messing around. All right. Okay, jokes aside. Cool. So, anybody say anything in the chat that I missed, or anything relevant, important, or concerning?
Everyone had their opinions about the people, or about the lost art of figuring things out on their own, and being able to do critical thinking and problem solving, which is not so common anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I had a customer when I worked at Best Buy, a consumer electronics retailer. Had a lady, she like had, given brought a laptop in for repair. She was complaining how her son, needs this computer laptop to do homework, but like one day he's hanging out with his friends, and his friend spilled something on his laptop, and then he had to get a new one. She had to get him a new one to fix it. I'm just sitting there like, at some point you gotta just tell the fucker to use a pen and paper. Like, it's like, do your homework the way we used to do it. Apparently you can't appreciate the computer enough to take care of it for your schoolwork. So yeah. Do your handwritten notes, mother effer. And then a friend of mine suggested, another friend's like, well, shit, when we were kids, we didn't always have a laptop. That was a luxury item at one time. Like, you're lucky if you had a desktop computer. So another option for the mother would be like, well, if you need a computer for schoolwork, you don't need a laptop for schoolwork. It's like, here's a like shitty desktop for, it's like, go to your desk, do your homework. Like, and realistically, it's not like, this is not a kid who's bringing a laptop to school. This is not a kid in university. He had a compact laptop, right? Wow. Nobody brings compact laptops to university. At least I hope not. Maybe some people do, but
crazy.
Maybe in 2007 it was okay, but like not in 2010. Even in 2010 it was no longer fashionable.
Okay.
But no, I mean, just in all seriousness though, like there is a certain threshold of laptop that you use at home that, like before tablets sort of thing, there were like shitty laptops that would get thrown around and used in the house like a tablet would. They weren't quite as durable, but that's what they were for. But they weren't the kind of thing that I don't think that you would do anything heavy on. But I don't know, that's a long time ago. So real quick, I see that Slimney mentioned something about, well, we can make a light bulb last over 100 years, but then nobody would need to buy light bulbs. One of these days, I would love to learn how to make my own like vacuum tube or light bulb, and see if a light bulb in a complete vacuum actually lasts forever or not. You ever hear about that?
Yeah, making your own light bulb, that'd be something. I mean, if you used like they use tungsten filament, I mean, if you get a nice thick one like they did for the very first light bulb, I'm sure it would last a long time as well. I'm not sure what the wattage was, but
well, it's interesting you mention that, because there is a firehouse in like Philadelphia, and they've had the same Edison light bulb for like over 100 years, and it's not very bright, but it's been continuously operating for like 100 years. And I suspect, like what you said, a function of that is the thickness or the gauge of wire for that tungsten wire, and perhaps the current or lack thereof allows it to strike a balance. And I had a guy I used to work with. He's much like you in the type of work he did. He's more into farm tractors and things like that. But he would like talk about this stuff, and he said he was under the understanding that a light bulb would work in a vacuum, which makes sense because you don't need gas for the light bulb. We put argon in light bulbs. Basically, last I checked, at least conventional incandescent light bulbs have a little bit of argon. And his contention, his argument was that it was there just to give it enough gas for the light bulb to die, whereas in a vacuum it would last almost indefinitely, assuming that it wasn't subjected to like external forces and things like that.
Right. That'd be something neat to try. You should actually do that for an experiment.
It might actually be doable, because I mean, the guys who worked in Menlo Park in the early days of making light bulbs, people did this stuff at home. They have a vacuum chamber, or they use some kind of pump now. It would still have like enough gas in there measured in parts per million, but you don't need like a perfect vacuum to have something, for the purposes of a light bulb, close enough to a perfect vacuum for it to not matter. So yeah, we'll have to look into that. I'll have to put out my like bucket list of things to do. Maybe we'll put that in the 2024 bucket list to do before the end of the year. So anybody who remembers that, feel free to pester me in the chat to remind me. And real quick, we'll just get through the rest of the chat here. We got I once got told by the same boss, Godzillionaire, you spend hours upon hours figuring out why something was designed a certain way. You can't teach that. Oh,
very
that's
true.
it.
Very true.
It sounds like his employer was commending him. You know, like that's like he was acknowledging a commendable attribute, and I could dig that. A video game console was a luxury back in the NES days, and before, kind of still is. I mean, look, a PS5 isn't just a luxury item. It's got, whether it's artificial or real, there is that scarcity factor that has prevented people from getting like Snowdub just got a PS5 like last week. He didn't have one for a long ass time, you know. Yeah, so you know, you know, it's like one of these things. Now, me, like, I'm happy with the PS5 controller. I think this thing is like, I got this third party app that lets me control like the trigger sensitivity and all that craziness and the
Oh yeah.
vibrations it does, and it's an excellent PC gamepad. But like, I stopped liking game consoles after PS4 because it's like it. It was the same specs as my desktop, except that at the time the desktop I had during the PS4 era, I can upgrade the RAM on it. I couldn't upgrade, so I don't know. It just drives
Oh
me nuts. Like, yeah, I mean the N64, you could upgrade the RAM on it too. You know,
yeah. Yeah.
not that it could do much with it, but you know, you could at least double it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It would be interesting if and I know why the goal of Sony is to mass produce something cheaply, and I respect that's their goal. So I'm not really holding against them. It's just that like it may be good for other people. It's not enough for me anymore. But I also understand for a long time consoles were more reliable and operated more consistently than a PC, especially when it was easy to get malware on a PC by looking at it the wrong way. So yeah, there's a factor there. So I mean, there is something to be said for consoles, but like up to PS3 and Xbox 360, these were distinctly unique architectures compared to what was available on the PC platform. So they still brought something different to the table. But that is a whole other can of worms I shouldn't even
Oh
be
yeah.
opening right now. It is fascinating, but we'll save that one. And what you call it, Gazillionaire? Oh, Gazillionaire also adds, remember when and the last thing I said came from Padawannabe, but Gazillionaire also says, remember when they first came out with work duty laptops? We used to throw those things down the hall and just see if they work. You ever use a Toughbook?
I never got exposed to having that.
Oh, okay.
I was never much onto the laptops at work.
So Panasonic had these laptops that like had like a magnesium alloy or some heavy metal outside on the chassis, and they usually had like a little like fold up handle on them, and they were heavy as f. And I remember when I worked at Best Buy, someone had to change. This is like in '04. Someone had to change the hard drive, and if you don't put every screw into that laptop, it won't even turn on. Like it had some kind of sensor or some induction or whatever capacitance thing going on there. But bottom
Oh,
line is, Toughbooks were designed where they were physically rugged. Now the thing is that hard drives themselves are still pretty conventional, but theoretically there would be a sensor in the laptop that would tell the read-write heads in the hard drive to go into the park position whenever it sensed an impact while running. So if it was on and you bumped it real hard, the read-write heads on the drive would, park. So
right.
they had some different measures for dealing with that, but they were also capable of dealing with extreme environments like hot and cold, and of course water. So if you poured water on the keyboard, it would at least be waterproof, and sometimes there would even be some drainage in there. Like I remember there was some ThinkPads that had holes in the bottom where if you poured water on top, the water would come out the bottom. I wouldn't try it, but yeah, some of them
No.
had that feature. And yeah, James was right. He said that the light bulb, the Edison light bulb in that firehouse does get really dim. The tungsten deposits on the glass, which makes it even dimmer. So it's almost like when you're operating a vacuum chamber and you have a wire that you run an electrical current through, and it starts to like spread it like almost like a vapor deposition. It seems that the tungsten causes vapor deposition to occur on the inside of the light bulb. And he says you can add a diode and it will dim and it will last longer. All right. I wonder what like a LED diode. LEDs should last almost not forever, but depending on the current you're putting through them, they could last forever. Unless he's talking about a diode that like acts like a catalyst, like almost like a like a sacrificial diode. So on boats when they're in the salt water causes the metals to corrode, and like if you have two metals touching each other on a boat or something like that, and the salt water, you get something called galvanic corrosion. So as the
That's
electrical
right.
current is passing, you get corrosion and rust. And so what they do is they put a block of zinc on the rudder or on the hull of the boat, and this is a sacrificial anode. And the idea
Yes.
is that it draws the current. So you've seen these before, or you're familiar
Yeah.
with these?
We've had those in our drum digesters. So this giant
Hmm.
tube, it's about 50 meters long and 5 meters in diameter, and it's made out of carbon steel. But they would weld anodes of zinc in them every couple of feet around the diameter of it, and that's the sacrificial metal. Exactly.
Fascinating. I did not know they used it in that manner as well. It's really cool. So they don't just use them in boats.
Yep.
And in context, he says, I've never owned a PlayStation. When I picture a PlayStation, I picture like a station that you play in, like almost like the ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese, but it's
Well, he
not.
never had. I never had one of those either. I never had a ball pit.
Yeah, I never
And
had a ball pit either. I never had a PlayStation, nor did I ever have a Sony Play. Actually, did I have a Sony PlayStation? I have some now. I didn't have a Sony PlayStation during its heyday. I can say that. I got them way after they were owned.
okay,
Yeah, way after. Like right now, I got like an Xbox, a PlayStation 3, and a PlayStation 2 right over there. And
nice.
maybe at some point hook the PlayStation 3 back up so I can play some more Gundam Crossfire and maybe get that imported Macross game. That alone, that game you told me about yesterday, that alone is a reason to hook up my PS3.
Yeah, give it a go.
Yeah, it looks like an amazing. I mean, anything Macross is great. I mean, holy cow. Um, and yep, so Gazillionaire remembers the name Toughbook now. And I don't know what Toshiba makes, but I do remember Toshiba had this obscenely big like laptop that was a desktop replacement. I remember one day I'm at someone's house, it was like 2003. This guy pulls out a Pentium 4 laptop, but this thing was like that thick, like this thick. I'm not even making that up. Like it was like literally this thick and
Oof.
this wide. Like so, it was a 17-inch diagonal measurement screen, and it was this thick. And so, like if you look at it from above, it would be like that. I don't know. It's like I'm not doing justice, but it would take up like it would take up like it would be like from here to here. It was just a monster. It was a damn monster. And so back in '04, and the last thing I'll say about technology is back in like '03 to like '06, '07, a lot of laptops, they were putting desktop microprocessors in laptops. And some laptops, they weren't making mobile versions of the processors. They were just putting a desktop CPU in there.
Oof.
Yeah, right. You see where this is going. And so like normally you'd have like a nice heat sink this big, but now you're trying to put it inside like a tiny little flat laptop case. And so as it's blowing the air the fan moves at a higher RPM to cool it down at high temperatures, more and more dust piles up on the little, heat sink on the radiator fins. And
Yeah.
as more dust builds up, the fan goes faster. And it's just like Fat Bastard in Austin Powers. The more I eat, the fatter I get. Well, except in this case, the more dust it gets, the faster the fan goes. The faster the fan goes, the more dust buildup you get. You can see where this goes. It wasn't pretty. Yeah, so thank God we got past that era of laptop technology. Nowadays, it's almost like we're using like laptop CPUs and desktops. Although luckily things have gotten a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
And just to see, James always says no, just a one-way valve like a 60-volt diode. Then the filament lasts longer by the electrons only flowing at about 50% of the time. Oh, okay. Interesting. So it's a way of reducing the duty load on that filament. At least that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, that should make it last longer.
And yes, James, I agree. Those tough books look like something an oil field boss would use. That's actually not far from what they were made for and the type of people using them. So with that, I don't have any fancy outro music, but I know you already promoted your show. I'm going to copy and paste the link for your channel for tomorrow so that people may check it out. Is there anything else you want to add? Any thoughts?
No, it was very fun. I appreciate you inviting me on there, DJ. We had a good chat of a myriad of different topics, which is good. It shows that you and I have varying interests, which is, I'm not just a one-trick pony. I won't just go on about the trades or about anime or video games and all that. There's other stuff out there to chat about. And
Big
same with the
Angry
chat.
Phil. Who's Big Angry Phil? I'm sorry, but real quick. So you keep going. And do you have any aspirations for the new year?
Aspirations in the new year. I want to get get up to 1,000 subs. I'm about at 860 right now, so I'm hoping we'll get up there and have a little more bigger audience and people coming out to Trades Talk would be nice. I still have I do my video game stuff on the weekends, video games on Saturdays, and anime chats on Sundays. But yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I posted a link to Big Phil, or however I said it, but then I'm going to post a link to your thing now because, you get the last word. Your link gets the last word in my chat. I almost put Big Angry Phil. I was going to end this stream with just Big Angry Phil's link. Get the F out of here. No, you get the last say in the chat. So we got you right there. No, but jokes aside, right above the last link, we do have Big Angry Phil if anyone wants to check out his content. Never heard of him, but I'll give him a chance. And but more importantly, at the very bottom of the chat, we do have a link to Pop Culture Mechanics channel. So if you go there, subscribe, that will allow you to, be notified or to come to tomorrow night at 9 p.m. New York time to, tune in for Trades Talk. And it'll be much like this, except that I won't be in the video. So, you'll get more Pop Culture Mechanic and potentially some more chat interaction there. So with that being said, Pop Culture Mechanic, I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, DJ.
And for everyone in the chat, that includes James, Godzillionaire. You are on fire tonight. James, always a pleasure to have you here. Lorenzo Sleestack, thanks for dropping by. I'm sorry that my friend Games had to drop out, but it's like conflicts and shit. YouTube drama. Fucking, I wish there wasn't any YouTube drama, but sometimes it's unavoidable. I'm just gonna be Switzerland best I can. Neutrality. I want to give a shout out to the Padawannabe, Slim Nim, and last but not least, Lady Mist. Thank you so much, Lady Mist, for being here tonight. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. And I was almost going to go to your channel and play the piano music that you use at the end of your Trades Talk show, but I'm not going to steal from you. I'm going to just make sure that next week I have something. Hopefully next week I actually do that. I'm not going to, don't quote me on that, but one of these days we will have music at the end of my show. And one of these days, maybe I'll have a cool opening. If you want to see a cool opening, tune into this guy on Sundays and you'll see a really cool, like really well put together opening. And with that being said,
thanks, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. For anybody watching on the replay, if you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. And for now, we shall end transmission.